Hi everyone, welcome back. This is episode 9 of the Crafty Princess Diaries podcast, and my name is Tammy Powley, your host and your crafty princess, I guess you would call me. Today is December 15th, 2014, and it's been a little while since I podcast because I am a school teacher. I teach college English, and school was getting really busy there. I had a lot of grading to do, and just the end of the semester type stuff that is very, very time consuming. So I turned my grades in late Thursday evening, and they were due Friday. Yay me, I got them in early, but I just like to have that little bit of wiggle room just in case something happens. So that means the following week, this week, I will be getting ready for spring semester, which means, of course, putting together syllabi and getting my websites all set up. I usually teach a number of web-based classes as well as face-to-face classes. And then, of course, I have meetings to go to. But after that, I will be off for 2 weeks, and I'm really looking forward to it. I am very much in the holiday feel, I guess you could say already, which is why today's episode is called An Undisclosed Location, because I decided to move my podcast today over near the Christmas tree, which is in our living room. And it's not really undisclosed because it's just in a different room in my house. But it just sounded cool, so I figured I'd go with that title. But yes, I'm wearing sparkly jewelry and sparkly necklace here, earrings and necklace. This is actually a necklace from one of my books, the book on seed bead jewelry. And it's actually on the cover. Nice and sparkly. Love the necklace. And then we are going to be putting ornaments on the tree soon, but right now I just liked the background, so background this way. But anyway, if you want some show notes, which will have links to many of the items that I mentioned in today's episode, you can go over to my website at tammypowley.com. That's Tammy Powley. And I will also have a link over to my YouTube channel, in fact, thank you for all those people who have already subscribed to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate that. I still have a very small audience, but you know, it's growing and it's nice to see that. And I have to admit that I really have not been proactive, you could say, on reaching out to people and letting them know about my show, which I need to do. Shame on me. People don't know if you're publishing a video podcast unless you tell them, right? It's not like, you know, everybody has ESP and knows. So I just need to get out there and let people know. And if you would also help me do that, use 3 or 4 people who are watching the show right now. Just let your friends know. I'd appreciate it as well. But let's get into the show. And I wanted to start, I usually do a tip first, but first, because it's the holidays, I wanted to show some little simple ornaments that I've made in the past, and it might give you some crafting ideas. First of all, of course, you have to have little stockings for each of your pets, right? So here's one for Herbie, and this I just did. You just can buy these in any craft store for very little. Sometimes you can find them at the dollar store too. Here's one that's got Coco. Lola's got hers, okay? And here, little dude, I did his last year when he joined the crew. And really all you have to do is get glitter glue. And I obviously can see this is done by hand. I'm not using a stencil because it's not at all symmetrical. But if you have kids, this would be a fun project for them to do with you. Very simple. And you know what? If you goof up, just smear it. You have 2 sides. So if you mess up, just kind of smear it and make it look like it's kind of part of the, you meant to do that. It's a design element, right? And so then you can have stockings for all your little furry crew or your children or both. Another ornament that is something that kids can do that are super easy is you take a pipe cleaner, you know, red pipe cleaner, get some glass beads. These, in fact, I don't think these are glass. These might be plastic now that I think about it. But they have, these are, again, you can find them at any craft store. You just slip them on and then you twist it at the top and twist it into a little bow. And these can actually slide right on to the, to the tree, or you can put something at the top to hang them if you want. And then, if you want to get super fancy, this looks probably more difficult than it really is if you are not a seed beater, okay? Just fair warning. But these are seed bead covers. They come off. Okay, so basically this is what you're making, and then you slip it on top here. And there are books about how to do this. In fact, if you get onto the about.com jewelry making site where I used to work, I don't work for them anymore, but my articles are still over there. This, in fact, I think this might even be the one I made for them. I don't know. I've made a zillion of these. So, and you can see I have little teardrops in the sides here. This is a very, very simple. You do not have to be super seed bead qualified to make this at all. And of course, here's another one that I made also using seed beads and some bugle beads. The bugle beads are the ladder type beads here. And this one is even easier to make. Oop, that looks awful. Fix that side there. There you go. Okay, this one is even easier to make because it doesn't have as much going on, but you can make it more involved by adding, more areas in between if you want. These can become very, very elaborate. I was trying to find, there's one I have that I made a few years ago. I think I used a pattern from Bead and Button, the magazine Bead and Button when I made it. I may have changed a little bit. I'm always one of those people that changes stuff when I'm, I follow the directions loosely, let's put it that way. And it is intense. It's very, in fact, it's so heavy, but I don't know, I can't seem to find it today. So maybe once we get the tree decorated, it'll arrive and show up somehow. But anyway, those are great ornaments to make and give as gifts, especially because something like this, pretty much everyone's going to have bulbs. They may not have, this color, this clear type, but they probably have colored ones. And then all they have to do is slip it on here. I've even made these and given them as gifts, and then put them in a bubble wrap envelope. And that's been my Christmas gift to people when I was, very prolifically beading there for a while. But that's my little holiday tip as far as making ornaments. And generally my tip really does relate to gift giving. At this point in time, today's December 15th, 2014, so you only have 10 days until Christmas is here. And are you already freaking out that, oh no, I wanted to make all this stuff for people, and now I don't have enough time? This is what I have done in the past, and I've done this when I've been short on time, but also when I just wasn't exactly sure what to give somebody, because of course I want that person to like the gift and use it. So I have made up little IOU cards. I'll take maybe even put it in the Christmas card, and you can handwrite it in there, or if you want to get fancy, use your computer and make something. And list items that you are willing to make. Obviously, you may want to rethink something like Afghans. You don't want to say, yeah, I'll make you an Afghan. But items, small items like washcloths, fingerless gloves, maybe a hat or scarf, maybe a shawlette, things that that you would be willing to make, and put them in the IOU and have a little box next to them so the person can check it off and return it to you with the explanation in there that over the next year you will make this item for that person. So you will not have necessarily a deadline to deal with, but you do have, you're still giving a gift, and in fact you're giving them something that they actually want. You could even put in what color would you like this item to meet? Purple, blue, whatever. Let them pick the color and that kind of thing. So, and you could do this with, yarn gifting. You could do this with jewelry. Like, would this person prefer a bracelet earring set, or 2 pairs of earrings, or what? So whatever your craft may be, this is something that you could go ahead and write up those IOUs, and then over the next year you have time to make that person whatever he or she would like. Okay, so that's the tip. And okay, on to my finished objects. And of course, it's been a while since I have recorded, so that means I do have finished objects. Yay. Even though I was grading like a mad woman, I do have finished objects. And one is not new to you. It's the sampler scarf. Well, it's not new if you've been watching my podcast. Okay, so you've missed it, right, if you haven't been watching. But no, you haven't really missed it, because here it is. It's done. All right. And this is made out of baby alpaca from Cascade. And you can see, you can kind of see, it's a little dark in here, but you can kind of see how I've done different stitch patterns throughout. And I want to say this is the seed stitch, and I really like that. And also what I ended up doing is I trimmed it. Oh, okay, I do have to leave these ends, but I'm still calling this finished object. I haven't blocked it yet either. But I trimmed it with a darker purple that I have. Also, it's baby alpaca. And I'm going to lightly, lightly block this. There are some areas that need more blocking than others, but especially because, yeah, there are a few holes in here. But the girl I'm going to give this to, she's a sweetheart, and will pretend like she didn't see those holes, I'm sure. But yeah, I finished it. It's super, super soft. Ooh, love it. Okay, so that one's done. And the other thing I've finished turned out so stinking cute. And again, if you've been watching any of my previous podcast episodes, you've heard me talk about him, and I can't remember. I think I've shown a little bit of him, but not too much. But here he is. Mike the Monster is done. Check him out. Whoa, super cute. This mouth was probably one of the hardest things. It is a free pattern from freshstitches.com. And the easiest way to find it, and of course I will put the link in the show notes, but if you're like, oh, I want it right now, if you go over to freshstitches.com to her blog and search for Mike the Monster, you will find the pattern easier that way. I believe it's not listed with her normal free patterns, so it's a little tricky to find this guy. So the instructions really don't tell you how to do the mouth. She just says cut out some felt and make it, and she says it's about 3 inches. So this is actually the second mouth that I've made for this guy. But yeah, this is going for to be given to my nephew Dalton, who loves monsters and I guess crazy stuff like this. And he's cute. He actually can sit. I don't know if I can put my hand here so you can see. So he can actually sit, or can carry him around and stuff. Hopefully, I really tried to stitch these legs and arms in really, really well, because I can just see Dalton running around with this guy by the arm and just dragging him around. And, hopefully he will survive the Dalton experience. One thing I did notice when I finished this guy, I had yarn left over, of course, and I was thinking, well, maybe I'll make this for my craft club and we could sell it for charity purposes that we do. And this is unusual because it's not in any other Fresh Stitches patterns. This particular one, I guess it's because she was commissioned by Disney to make this guy. It does have a clause in there that says you cannot sell him. You can't make him and then sell the finished product. You can gift him, but you cannot sell the finished product, which is like I said, very unusual. Normally, I know Stacy, who's the designer of Fresh Stitches, she does allow you to sell whatever you make from her patterns, but in this case it specifically says that you cannot do that. So yeah, bummer, I can't make him and sell him for the craft club. I don't know, I could make him and give him to charity, but it's just normally what we do is we make the items and sell them, and then whatever we don't sell we give. So I would just have to remember to segregate that guy, because I would not be able to, sell him. But he was not too difficult. The only problem I had with this pattern, honestly, was I downloaded it right when she first did it. I can't remember it's probably been out at least a year. And there were some errors in the pattern. And then when I went to go use it, I found, things were not working out right. And come to find out, of course, then I went back and checked. She had already published a error-free pattern, which is what you will find now on her website if you go over there. But I did not double check that. So that's just maybe another little tip for you guys. If you download a pattern and then don't use it for like a year, it's always a good idea to go back and double check, because I was getting very frustrated. He's really not that difficult to make, but if you have incorrect instructions, kind of hard to make him correctly, right? But he turned out super cute. Yay. So those are my FOs. All right, so let's see. Oh, and by the way, I used Knit Picks yarn for him. For the most part, the white yarn, where did I get the white yarn? Oh, the white yarn is, I think, loops, some leftover loops that I had from, I think that's a Michael's brand. it's really scratchy and yucky. It's not at all as nice as the Knit Picks Bravo that I used. But that was Knit Picks Bravo, and I believe in the Peapod colorway. And I used a size H hook, and he's probably about 10 inches tall. So her patterns make very large amigurumis, which I like. I prefer that because I do give them as toys for children to play with. So, but yeah, and then the sampler scarf, of course, I told you was Baby Alpaca Cascade, and I used size 10 knitting needles for that one. So, oh, one other little thing. This guy, okay, she has you, just in case you want to make him. I'll just let you know, I did not follow her instructions for the attaching the leg. Like she has you actually add stitches onto his foot after you make the foot and stuff the foot. She has you attach stitches and then start going up. I tried that and it just felt really weird to me. And I realized, you know what? These legs are really similar to her flamingo legs, which is a pattern you have to pay for, but it's totally worth it. Super, super nice pattern. And I think it's very inexpensive, like $4 or $5. And in fact, that is my whips, by the way. I'm going right into my whips. But the legs are similar. I think these are a little bit longer. And with this one, she doesn't have you do that. I won't tell you how she has you do it, but she doesn't have you do it like she has you do it with the monster. And I realized these legs were very, very similar. So I used the flamingo leg technique for the monster legs. Okay. And see, I don't have the pattern in my bag here, but I'm almost done with the flamingo. This is one I want to get finished up. This is for the craft club to sell in our spring boutique and or give away at the end of the semester to, I'm not sure where we're going to be donating these to. Don't know. Last place I donated from, I did not really hear back from her because I did say, if you want more, let me know. If there's a particular item that was very popular, like were bunnies better than, teddy bears, let me know. And I even emailed her this, and she never even replied to my email. So you don't reply, you don't say thank you, you don't say yes, we need more toys, you're not gonna get more toys. I gotta know that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's going into the whips. The other whip I'm working on is, you'll be very shocked to find out that it is another scarf. This one is, I'm just doing, it's not a sampler one. This one is completely garter stitch. Okay, and I'm using Knit Picks City Tweed. Kind of dark in here. But this is the Blue Blood. Okay, and I had this in my stash, and I remember thinking, oh, this will be good for my friend who really likes red. But then when I took it out and I started working with it, it's sort of a brownish red, and she really likes a bright, like cherry red. And so she's probably not going to get this. I would rather give her something totally not red than semi-red. And I have some leftover Baby Alpaca, the dark purple that I used to trim the other scarf with, so I might just use that because I have made her a number of items in the past that have red in them or are totally red and they are bright red, so she could use the purple and red. I think would look fine together. So anywho, this, not sure. I kind of have somebody in mind who is a guy friend of mine that lives in a cold area, but I'm getting pretty far on it. This is a really good mindless. When I was giving a lot of tests, I was working on this because, of course, I have to kind of sit there, and I don't read well when I'm sitting there with tests. I mean, I can read a little bit, but I kind of have to watch what people are doing. I don't want to totally ignore them. Not that I think anybody's going to necessarily cheat on my tests, but hey, that's when you're proctoring a test, you kind of need to look around occasionally. So, and when I read, I won't be looking around that much. So that's why I usually knit or crochet while I'm giving tests. Okay, what else? Oh, I also finally started a project for me. Yay! I know I've been saying that I'm going to do this for I don't even know how many episodes. It's embarrassing. An embarrassing number of episodes. So I showed this yarn a while ago. This was an acquisition I got from Knit and Stitch in Cocoa Village, Florida. And Oh, and by the way, if you didn't know, I live in Florida, and the weather right now is amazing. And I know everybody where it's really cold hates it when Floridians tell you that, but it's beautiful. This is why I live in Florida, and I need to remember this in July and August when we are dying. And it's 100 degrees out with 100 degrees or 100% humidity, all right? So, yeah, we have to pay for this weather. This is how we pay for the weather that we get in December. Because in the summertime, it's intensely hot here. So, one half dozen of the other. I just know for me, I would not ever want to live where it's super cold. I've never lived where it's super cold, okay? I have visited places a couple of times and seen snow, and I did not like it at all. I was amazed. I was like, why do people live here? In fact, one time I saw it, I think I was about 15 or so, 14 or 15, and I was in Chicago on a 4-H trip, and I actually asked my 4-H leader, because she was from Chicago, she was from the area, and it was so cold. It was November, it was freezing, and of course, as Floridians, none of us had really good clothing, so, I was wearing tennis shoes and stuff, and I asked her, why do people live here? And she said, sweetie, they just don't know any better. And I don't know if that's really true. I know some people love the cold weather, and I like it when it's cold too, but cold to me is like 50 degrees. And which is what about right now. This morning it was in the mid-40s, and it's already warmed up to the mid-60s right now. And when you get out in the sun, it's very warm. So, like, even though I was wearing a sweatshirt earlier today, it just got too hot when I was taking my boy puppies outside. So anyway, back to the whip. Okay, here's the yarn. This is Cascade from the Heritage Paints. I got my notes here. Heritage Paints collection, and it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's fingering. I'm using a size I hook, and I actually started this yesterday, and here's just a little bit. Okay, I don't know if you can even see very much of this. I started it 3 different times because I tried 3 different patterns before I finally found something I liked. Here, let me put yeah, you can get a look at it. It's a shell netting type stitch, and I'm going to make a shawlette. The pattern I'm using is actually from this book, Totally Simply Crochet. And it's a pretty decent book. I've actually made a number of shawls out of it, which has been very cool. I've actually been able to wear one of them lately. I think on maybe not the last episode, but the episode before, I was wearing it and pretending it was cold. And it's been so nice that it's been cold enough that I can throw it on and it just keeps my neck warm, which is nice because it's a very lightweight type of shawlette. So what I'm making is this one. And you can see the pattern a little bit better down there. I've actually, what have I made out of here? I think I made this one, which is a shawly. Yeah, in fact, I have some notes here. So there's 3 of them in here that are similar, and I've pretty much made them, or like I said, a lot of times I change things. Like, for example, here I changed stuff. Here's my notes to myself that I made this, but I changed a bunch of stuff. But you know what? I think with that one, I actually might have frogged it for the yarn. Yeah. So this one I don't have to show you anymore, but the other one I'll try to find because it did turn out fairly nice. So that's what I'm making. The one that I was wearing in the podcast a few episodes ago, I've been wearing it so much, I realized, you know what? I need another one of these just in a different color. So yeah, it's not super complex. I was trying to think I was trying to make this snow something. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's like a shawlette scarfy type of pattern. It was free. I liked it, but I was having a hard time reading what I was doing, and I think some of it's because, I don't know if you can really tell that much, but this yarn is kind of, it's not variegated, but because it's the hand painted, because it's the painted, it goes from purples to blues to stuff. So, and it's thin. It was, I don't know, I was having a hard time figuring out, because it would say, do a double crochet here and a single crochet, and then turn it around and then go single crochet and the double crochet you just crocheted. And I was getting really, so it's like, if it's going to be like that and I can't figure it out after a little while, time to move on to another pattern. So, and that yarn, the colorway is called Isle of Sky. So, can't wait to finish that. Blue's a good color for me, so looking forward to that. All right, future projects. It's funny, for a while I thought, I don't even know what I'm going to make, and then, you get on a roll and all of a sudden you want to make everything. So one thing I want to make as far as amigurumi, after I finish that flamingo, I'm going to finish that flamingo, I'm going to make this guy. Cute. This is from Craftsy Class. It's Make Your Own Monster or Design Your Own Monster from Stacy Trock, and this particular pattern is called Flower Power. I'm folding it so that you don't see the pattern because, you have to, this is paid for. But I have not gotten all the way through that particular Craftsy Class. I've gotten part way through. I do want to take it, but I'm really concentrating on knitting right now. So as far as, taking classes, and hopefully, in fact, over my summer break, over my Christmas break, which is about 2 weeks, even though I have a lot of things it's the holidays, so I have social engagements to, do. I'm really hoping to get at least some partially way, maybe get one hat I hopefully made out of the Knit Lab hat type, Knit Labs hat, making hats in the round class. I have a feeling that it's probably a little bit more involved than I think it is. But when you take a Craftsy class like the knitting or crochet, or like the Design Your Own Monster class that she has, it also comes with patterns. And this pattern, because I've made a lot of amigurumi, this is like super easy to make for me. So I thought this would be cute because the craft club's going to have a spring boutique, and so this is kind of spring-like, so I'll make it for them. And then the other thing I'm looking to make is a super cute baby kimono. I'm not sure what yarn. I'd hope, I have, like everybody else who does, crafting, you have a stash of craft supplies, and I have quite the stash. I don't have an embarrassing amount of yarn, though, definitely not. I know people who have, 100 times more than what I have, but I don't, I have been kind of on a yarn diet lately. I really want to get through some of my certain parts of my yarn stash that, I just have had for a while, and I figured, why add to this when I still have, like baby yarn. I got through a lot of baby yarn over the summer. This particular pattern, it's a Lion Brand. By the way, it's a free pattern from Lion Brand. If you go over to their website, this is pattern number L as in Lincoln, 10465, but it's called Baby Kimono. They have a number of similar patterns to this at Lion Brand. This one is using Baby Soft, and it's in the variegated, pinks and blues and greens and stuff. And I actually had a skein of that, and if you've watched the show, you saw that I made a bunny using it. But you need 2 skeins of it for this guy, and which I didn't have anyway. I do have some really nice recycled cotton yarn that I'm kind of thinking of maybe using. It feels really good. It would be nice. It's soft. It sounds like recycled yarn. What's that? But it's also, I believe it's a Lion Brand recycled yarn. I should have brought it to show you guys, but I don't know. It's a kind of a neutral color because, of course, this is for a baby I don't know the sex of yet. My niece is having a baby in, I guess, the end of December. Yeah, pretty soon. That baby could be here any minute. So at this point. And I kept saying I was going to wait until the baby was here before I make anything, but I'm kind of itching to get started on something because it's going to take a while to make stuff for her. And I'm making stuff for that baby. So hopefully she likes it. So far, everything I've sent her, she's been happy with. So, but I want to make some baby clothing, and it really does make, I'm sorry, I don't, politically correct or not, it does make a difference to me what the color is. I would not make a pink kimono for a baby boy. All right, not going to do it. So, and she doesn't like baby type colors anyway, but I don't know. I think the yarn, the recycled yarn I have, it's so neutrally that it might be too neutrally. It's kind of like a beigeish with bits of brown in it. I had originally gotten it thinking I was going to make a a shopping bag thing, and I made a few using other yarn, and it was like I don't really use them that much for whatever reason, and that cotton yarn really stretches a lot, so when you make a bag, that it just stretches like crazy. So also it would require her to not put it in the dryer. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to break down and buy some yarn if I'm gonna make that baby kimono. So I'm kind of struggling with that right now. I mean, I would like to use some really nice yarn, but you know, new moms do not want something that you have to hand wash. That's just crazy. So she's gonna be so busy with that baby, she does not have time to hand wash a baby kimono. All right, so that's all of the crafting. That is it. I do have some personal info that's related to crafting. So for those who are interested in hanging around for that, please stay. It's probably another 5 to 10 minutes, hopefully, and we'll wrap things up. And yes, this is a longer episode because I guess, I can't remember when the last time, it's been over 2 weeks, easily probably going on 3 or more weeks since I did my last podcast. So I have lots of stuff to talk about. But as far as the crafting goes, that's kind of it. So if you don't want to hang out for some personal info, see ya. Please come back, and thank you for coming back at this episode. For those who are hanging out a little bit longer with me, I will go into it. First of all, the craft club, I mentioned that already. We had a fall boutique, and it went very well. I was very happy about it. We sold quite a number of crocheted amigurumi pieces. We sold, we make greeting cards. We sold some of those. The only thing was, I didn't think about this, but I had it, the day I scheduled it was near a holiday. It wasn't on the holiday, obviously, the school was open, but for some bizarre reason, if you have a holiday, even if it's just one day, students tend to not show up. Plus, of course, me, a lot of people will take vacation time. So just generally the campus was pretty quiet on that particular day. So lesson learned, I won't do that again. But we still ended up making about $135, thankfully, to people who came by and purchased stuff after the show. So that was really nice. In the future, we're going to do one in the fall, or not in the fall, this was the fall. We're going to do a spring boutique. And I think we might move it out and see about doing it in the cafeteria. I have to get permission for that, but I think they'll let me do it. And that way we'll be a little bit more, everybody will see us more instead of doing it in a classroom, which is what I did before. The only thing is, like anything that we do for the club, I always have to keep in mind that worst case scenario, I'm there by myself selling this stuff, which kind of happened. I did have one person show up from our club to help me, but the other person who was supposed to help me, in addition to her, was sick that day. And she is someone who normally I can always count on her, so I know it's not like, you couldn't count on her. But yeah, it's one of those things when you sponsor a club at the school, you have to be prepared to take over and do whatever program, whatever activity. You have to be prepared to do it yourself in case, people back out at the last minute. So we will see. All right, so that's that. I just want to let you know, because I had mentioned that in a couple previous episodes and just wanted everybody to know it went well. And our donation is going to Domino's House, which is a no-kill cat shelter in Palm City, Florida. So, and which I already got in fact, I already mailed that. I did all the paperwork after we got our fundraiser finished, turned the paperwork, they spit out a check, and I typed up a letter and sent it off to them. So that was late last week I did that. All right, itchy nose. Okay, so the other thing is, I mentioned it already, really. I have 2 weeks off, and I really want to take some knitting classes at Craftsy, and I'm trying to prepare myself that I'm probably not going to get through an entire class, because those Craftsy classes are kind of intense, some of them. The one I did this summer for knitting, the regular knit lab, was 16 lessons, and I was pretty diligent. I wasn't like doing it a slave to it every day, but I was pretty diligent, and it took me most of the summer to get through that class and be successful at what I was making. So yeah, 2 weeks can go by just zip, we'll see what happens with that. But I really want to at least get started and have, let's say I want to have a better understanding and a almost able to do it skill of knitting in the round. Yeah, that's a good goal. Maybe I'll do more than that, but at a minimum, that's what I want to get out of the 2 weeks. And then finally, this is, okay, where is that? I have so much stuff around here. All right, finally, this is some self-promotion, totally not craft related, but wango, my book is out. It's so funny because I thought this wasn't going to be published until like maybe January 2015 at the soonest. And I was home one day and I didn't feel good, so I was getting kind of grouchy, and I actually took a nap, which I do love to take naps, but I rarely take them. And I was just out of it, and I heard ding dong, blah, 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 knock, knock, knock. And I didn't even get up. I just kept sleeping. I figured it was somebody, UPS or whatever. So when I got up, I went and looked, who's that? They woke me up, rah, rah, rah. And there was a box of these books, and I was, whoa, it's published already? I didn't even get an email from the editor, nothing, So it was a wonderful surprise. Very happy. This is called Women of Florida Fiction. There are 12 essays, as it says here in the subtitle, Essays on 12 Sunshine State Writers. I wrote this with my friend April Van Camp. She also teaches at the college I teach at. And we took 12 Florida authors that they're contemporary authors. So you're not going to find anything specific about some authors, some female authors that you might relate to Florida, such as Zora Neale Hurston, for example. She's mentioned quite a bit in there because of the, she is a part of the canon, so you can't really not mention her. But we purposely picked Florida authors that were women who you didn't really see a lot of information about them other than maybe biographical information. And so there isn't a lot of secondary source material for someone who maybe want to write about them or write about their work. And so let's see. I'll tell you, of course, the 12 authors are Karen Russell, Elizabeth Stuckey French, Lynn Barrett, Janine Capo-Crusette, Connie Mae Fowler, that might be a name you are familiar with. Also Janice Owens, Heidi Boehringer, Angela Hunt, Edna Buchanan, Anna Mendez, Vicki Hendricks, and Mary Jane Riles. So those were the 12 authors that we started with, and then we looked at their work and purposely looked at fiction that is placed in Florida. So the setting is a Florida setting. The author is a Florida author. All of them are women. That's the scope of the book. So, for example, if you're familiar at all with, let's see, Connie Mae Fowler, The Problem with Murmur Lee, that is a novel of hers, is placed in Florida. Also, Karen Russell, Swamplandia, you might have heard of that. That is a fictionalized area in Florida. In fact, a number of them, there's also a fictionalized area in Angela Hunt's book, 5 Miles South of Peculiar. So those are just an example of the primary sources that we looked at. And then we had female English professors, I guess, and we asked them we solicited them to write articles about these primary sources. So if you think back, if you've ever been to college or even school at all, you would read a story, for example, and write about it, and I'm not talking about like writing a book review type of thing, but more like a analysis of it. You would look at a specific part of the book. For example, you might look at the theme or the setting. With Karen Russell, for example, one of the articles I wrote in here, one of the essays, I looked at the setting and talked about how the settings often were kind of an antagonist against the protagonists, so which were usually children. And so the setting works against these children. Instead of being, you think of Mother Nature, for example, that's not how the setting helps or works with the children in her stories. So anyway, that's kind of what the book's about. We will be doing some promoting of it throughout the next year. We're already talking about doing another version of it. Some of these authors already have works out, published again, or in addition to what we talked about in the book, they already have new titles out. So we're going to look at those. Definitely we're going to stay within the women in fiction, Florida fiction area. I don't know if we'll stick with just looking at works that are placed in Florida. We'll have to see, what is out there. I know some of them, like Angela Hunt recently has a book, and I can't remember the title, but she wrote a book that maybe it was published this past year that's placed in Tampa. So that would be something we would definitely look at. But so we have, I'm trying to think of how many, so there's 12 authors. There's at least one critical essay for each author, and then I think 2 or 3 of the chapters have 2. We also did a biographical, so when you look in the chapter, the first thing you have is, about the, like a page or 2 about the author, and then we have the critical works about them. In addition, we had in the back of the book 4 interviews from some of the authors that we look at, like Angela Hunt. We have an interview with her. Let's see, who else do we have? I know we had one with, let's see. Oh yeah, Vicki Hendricks, Lynn Barrett, and Janine Capo-Crusette. So we have 4 interviews with those authors, which is neat because then we could really ask them, specifically about the works that we are looking at through it. I guess you would call it's a formalist analysis of the work. So if you're trying to figure out, like look in an old lit book when it talks about formalist criticism, that's what we did. But yeah, so it would be a good book for somebody, for example, who wants to teach a book on Florida literature. This would be a fabulous companion book. Okay, so for example, say you wanted to teach a class on Swamplandia by Karen Russell. There are 2 articles in here, 2 essays that discuss her work. So that would be one way to use it. Another way would be if you're part of a book club and you've read, a book that's, we discuss in here. After reading the book, you could, whatever the novel is, then you could look at some of the works that we talk about the book. So it's really a companion to the novels, and yeah, we're very excited about it. This took about 2 years. We had, I guess it's published by McFarland. We put together a proposal, and originally I sent it to Pineapple Press, and they promptly said, we're not interested, that's cool, whatever. And it's funny because originally I was really thinking McFarland, but I thought, well, let me go with Pineapple Press first. I don't really know why I decided to do that. Then we were talking with Cengage, who does all kinds of publishing. They've actually published one of my craft books, I think the Metal Clay book that I did. But they are a very big publishing house. But the problem with that, even though they were very nice about it, they wanted to change a lot to make it more of a textbook. So we would have to have like activities, and we would have to go through focus groups, and on and on and on and on. And I mean, the good thing of that is if you write a textbook like what they were talking about, you can make buku bucks. But it's a huge amount of work. Oh, and one of the things that they were insistent on, which was something we could not do, was they said that our college would have to adopt the book as a textbook. I cannot guarantee that. Are you crazy? I mean, I guess some authors can do that. That's awesome if you have that power. But our little school, I could not promise that. So we said thanks, but no thanks. And then finally we went to McFarland, sent in the proposal that we put together. They came back and wanted us to change some stuff, which was cool with us. It wasn't like mass. It did really change the focus kind of a little bit of the book, because we were going to go with more of a experimental writing instead of formalist criticism. Something, if you're familiar with Gregory Ulmer, for example, he does talk a little bit about what we were thinking of doing in some of his work. But anyway, we said, okay, honestly, it's easier to write more formalist criticism than to do what Ulmer does, which is sort of an experimental, where it's sort of a narrative / It's a combination of narration, personal narration, and formalist criticism, which is kind of not really adapted everywhere in academia, let's put it that way. It's something that some people get and they really like, and some people do not get, and they really want formalist criticism, and that's what McFarland said they would prefer, so not a big deal. And like I said, actually easier to do, because that way the people who that participated in this are authors that wrote the articles, that because we didn't write them all. It's much easier for them, because that way they didn't have to be familiar with, this whole other grammatology type approach that Ulmer does. So anyway, very excited. We'll see what happens. This is a really different experience than writing my craft books, I could say. First of all, with the craft book, you actually get paid up front. This, I only get paid when stuff is sold. So if this book does not sell at all, I make zero money. I know. It's funny. And then, but if it does, then I make, a certain percentage off the sales. So it's almost sort of like you get royalties in a way, but you get no upfront money. Whereas with the craft books, I usually get upfront money, and maybe I get royalties or maybe I don't, depending on what they want to do. And as I think I've mentioned in a previous podcast, I'm not real keen on royalties, because you just never know if you're going to get them or not. So, and they're contingent on a bazillion different things. All right, so I'm just yammering on at this point. Anyway, yay, happy. If you like Florida literature, definitely I would at least look at this and look at some of the author's works in there, and then buy the book and read it, because you'll like it. It's very approachable. I didn't think anybody who wrote anything in here, it's not over anybody's head. It's an academic book, but it's very easy to read. I will say that. It's not, it's not like, a calculus book or something, folks. All right, you'll like it. Unless you're a calculus person, which, sorry if I insulted any calculus people out there. So anyway, that's it. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday. I'm not sure when I'm going to podcast again. We'll see. Maybe I will next week, since I'm going to be on vacation. And we'll just see how much crafting I get done, and how much, because this week I'm not on vacation yet. I still have a lot of work to do to get ready for next semester, but I don't have classes meeting, so it does mean that I don't have papers to grade and all that extra work that usually goes on top of my regular teaching work. So if I don't see you before Christmas, have a wonderful holiday. Whatever I say Christmas because that's what I personally celebrate, but whatever you celebrate this time of year, I hope you have a wonderful time with your family, and that it's safe and relaxing, and that you get some crafting time in for yourself. Because remember, this time of year, we always get caught up with crafting for everybody else, but really, crafting should be for you too. So don't get caught up in that. Do what you can to appease everybody. Write those IOUs. I owe you a scarf in the next year. Okay? But, pick up that hook and needle, or the cross-stitch pattern that you've been dying to make, or those beads that you've been wanting to make a necklace for you, and have some fun crafting for yourself. Otherwise, I guess I will see you when I see you. And again, don't forget, you can find show notes at TammyPowley.com, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and get notification of any new publishing on my channel over there. That's it. Bye-bye.